Good morning and welcome to Our Issues Milwaukee. I'm your host, Andrea Williams. This morning, we're on location at the beautiful Milwaukee Art Museum. From its roots in Milwaukee's first art gallery in 1888, the museum has grown today to be an icon for Milwaukee and a resource for the entire state. A handful of notable designers throughout history have stated unequivocally that fashion is art and art is fashion. My first guest is the guest coordinating curator for the exhibit Inspiring Beauty, 50 Years of Ebony Fashion Fair. It's going on now through May 3rd here at the Milwaukee Art Museum. It's my pleasure to welcome Miss Camille Morgan. How are you, Camille?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for being a part of this. Like I said, we're here at the Art Museum, and as soon as I saw the display before I walked through the doors, I got chill bumps. This is really awesome. So thank you for taking the time to talk to us this morning.
Definitely.
And I think this conversation is an excellent way to wrap up Black History Month. So let's lay down the foundation for those who may not know of how the Ebony Fashion Fair came about. So the Johnson Publishing Company was created by the late John H. Johnson. He was born in Arkansas, a grandson of slaves, and then he somehow ended up with his family in Chicago and started this publishing company, and it was in 1942, I believe, that he began the Negro Digest?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the Negro Digest then turned into what we know as Ebony magazine.
Yes, by 1945.
Okay,
Yeah.
So where this whole fashion fair comes into play is the beautiful lady known as Eunice Johnson, who used Ebony magazine as a way to kind of paint a picture and bring things to African Americans that they may not have had exposure to otherwise. So talk about the importance of this exhibit and all the things it has to offer.
Absolutely. So like you said, Eunice Johnson, she was the director producer of the show beginning in 1958. And the show actually started because it was a philanthropic effort for the Flint Goodrich Hospital located in New Orleans. So they had a fashion fundraiser essentially for the hospital to raise money for it. And with every ticket, the person coming either got a free year subscription to Ebony magazine or a 6-month subscription to Jet magazine. So it was a real marketing effort, but also a way for Eunice to pull the fashion that she was showing in the editorials at that time, you know, out of the pages of the magazine and onto the runway. And she just never stopped. For 50 years at least, she didn't stop. And she, through this work, hiring all Black models, all Black staff, traveling all over the country, even in the South, even at this first fashion show in New Orleans, the audience was still divided at that time by Black and white by a velvet rope. So I feel that Eunice Johnson, through promoting the show and not giving up for 50 years through all of the segregation and civil rights insanity that was happening in the 60s and 70s, she was still able to support that idea that Black is beautiful in the American consciousness when no one else was showing that, especially in media. Even today, it's not necessarily that easy to find. And she essentially created a new world, a new environment, simply through her vision, innovation, and power.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then it just took a lot of determination and passion for her to accomplish those things, because we've been able to kind of put it in a nutshell. But the truth is in order to get some of these huge designers who were known by the elite, in order to get them to get on board with allowing these African American models to wear their clothing, was there any reluctance of them allowing that to happen?
You know, that's a great point. There was a great deal of reluctance when Eunice Johnson went to these European fashion houses, because we're talking the late 50s, early 60s. When you thought of fashion, you thought of, you know, Paris, Milan, Florence, you know, really making fashion that her constituency here in the United States, African American communities, they weren't going to these fashion shows or even able to go to them to see them in Europe. So when she went to these European couturiers, they said, no, actually, we don't know who you are. We don't want to work with you. We don't want to see our fashions on brown and Black bodies. And she didn't take no for an answer. She went back time and time again, to the point where she eventually started creating amazing relationships with these designers, like your Yves Saint Laurents, your Oscar de la Rentas, and had a great relationship with them through the course of the runway, to the point where she was having custom work made by them for her models on the runway. But it wasn't easy, and I imagine she often went back feeling you know, dejected, like maybe this wasn't going to work. But what I think is amazing is that she never stopped, even when she was taking her models to cities where the hotels wouldn't allow them to stay the night. You know, they're at the height of this show, they were hitting 180 cities throughout this, you know, fashion fair season. Yeah. And if you're a model, you're probably tired, you want to sleep in a bed. Like I said, they, you know, sleep on the bus. I know that sometimes they stayed at the homes of people in that city because, again, they weren't allowed to stay. And somehow the models still got up there. Eunice Johnson kept going, and they were smiling and sashaying and fantastic. And you have no idea that they slept on a bus maybe the night before.
Wow, it's really
incredible.
Amazing. Yes, it is. And I talk about Ebony magazine, and it's funny because I, like so many others, grew up with Ebony magazine and Jet, of course, both still in existence. And I have this issue, and it's funny, it's from July of 1994. That's when I graduated from college. I'm telling my age, but it has Bobby Brown and Whitney Houston and a baby, Bobby Christina, on the front. Wow. But what I found interesting is that it had that whole part of the Ebony Fashion Fair, and I would look at these pages growing up, and I was mesmerized by these beautiful, colorful designs, and you would just really take in this information, and we would not have had access to that if it not had been for Eunice Johnson.
Absolutely. I mean, I even think about Jet magazine always had this Beauty of the Week page.
Oh, yeah.
And so different women or girls could send their pictures in, and it was like, oh, such and such likes to read books and go to the beach. Yeah, I remember. And like growing up, I would have, you know, like 17 magazine. We'd get, you know, Time and Newsweek, and I never saw like myself reflected in a realistic way that made me feel good about myself and know that I could do whatever I wanted to do. So I love that about these publications. I mean, we have Ebony based off of Life magazine, and Jet, you know, became that weekly, and just, you know, talking about news that other people weren't covering. So this was a real, I mean, I say Eunice Johnson, through her work in the show, helped to underscore the humanity of scores of people across the country. At the time when she started the show, again, blacks were not supposed to be seen. We were in the background doing all the work maybe no one else wanted to do, even though she was born to a surgeon and an educator in 1916.
Yeah.
So it's like you have this like bizarre understanding of what it means to be black in the United States, and they covered the gamut of it. And then through the fashions that were like so bold and in your face, you couldn't look away from them. And she wanted to show that you shouldn't look away from black people. We have successes, we have, you know, our own concerns, and we're beautiful, and here we are. She was just completely unapologetic about her approach to that, and I wish I could do that in my life every day. I'm glad I can be part of the exhibit.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you. It's very interesting and exciting that the Milwaukee Art Museum has allowed this particular exhibit to be right here where you can walk through, and if you're a lover of fashion, you're taking in all of these designs by well-known names that have been around for many years. But so what does it mean to be the guest curator of an exhibit like this?
So museums usually have a curatorial staff, and on that staff, depending on what the museum collects, they have different specialties. So the Milwaukee Art Museum, in wanting to bring this show here, they didn't have a costume curator, or even decorative arts sometimes that'll lead into costumes, but that's usually like ceramics, furniture, some textiles, maybe like quilts and things like that. But to have a fashion show here, they needed some specific expertise, and my background just happens to be in history of textiles and dress, looking at 20th century garments. And people always say costume, and it's like, well, yeah, it's costume because there's a performative aspect to what you're wearing too. And so in my job here, I essentially provide that context for the fashion that we're seeing. So history about the designers, history about actual fashion design, so how the garments were created, I can speak to that. And then my focus again is looking at, the spheres of race and gender, just looking at fashion through the guise of sociology, economics, philosophy. So I can, speak to different audiences coming to a museum about, what they're seeing in front of them, and that it's not just clothes. It's actually art. It's design, and you happen to be able to wear it. And most of the clothes in the exhibit, most people don't realize, are considered haute couture. So that means there are no machines used in the creation of these garments, and that's hard to think about today, not using a machine like a sewing machine to make something. But yeah, so it's all hand done, all hand, uniquely designed.
Paid for that, honey.
Oh yes, yes.
So before we run out of
Thousands of
time,
dollars,
thousands of dollars, I want to talk about some of the programs that are happening here that are in correlation with this particular exhibit. And I definitely want to let our viewers at home know that the weekend of February 21st and 22nd is the Community Free Weekend. How lucky to be able to come to the museum free of charge from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on that weekend. It's a part of their year-long Gifts to Community series. So let's talk about some of the things that's going to be happening here.
Sure.
I was really excited about the films that are being shown.
Oh, I know. What a fun part of it.
Really, on Sunday, February 22nd, 2 p.m., the 1943 film Stormy Weather.
Oh my goodness.
They're going to be showing. How does this tie in?
Well, it really helps to represent that aspect that Eunice was bringing to the runway, that aspect of Black glamour and talent and entertainment. So these fashion fairs were super entertaining. They looked a lot at Black style in context, even though it was on a stage. So these films help to underscore, I think, again, that idea of Black talent, glamour.
And Lena Horne was all of that.
Yeah, and music. Music was a huge part of the shows. So there are all these other avenues where it really ties in, and I think people will be impressed to see first amazing Black artistry on film. And then, balance that with seeing some of the garments in the show and what these starlets may have worn when they weren't on the screen, or when they were in these movies.
Then March 1st, there's the 1975 film Mahogany, and it's perfect.
And I have not even seen that, so I have to
You're just too young. That's scary. That's scary. And I was all of 3 years old, but I have seen it, and it's so mesmerizing in this sense that Diana Ross wanted to be a fashion designer, and it fits right in with all of the wonderful
Diana
things
Ross is
that's going on.
fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm hoping people will come to that and learn something about something important in Black history that they maybe never experienced. I know I will.
Yeah, and that's Diana Ross and Billy D. Williams, of course, and that
Billy
collaboration
D.
is always wonderful to see on the screen. So quickly, you have Thursday, February 26th at 6:15. Chicago-based artists are bringing to life Eunice Johnson's vision relative to the civil rights movement and the business of fashion and all those things. So people really can come and be enlightened past just seeing the beautiful fashions and designs.
Absolutely. It's going to be a performance lecture, actually. So these are also performance artists, and then we'll talk about what they're doing in relation to the movement called Afro-Surrealism. It's kind of a newer movement in contemporary art, and it's based in the present and creating a world that wasn't there before. So we're really showing Eunice Johnson and talking about her as fashion's first Afro-Surrealist, because she created a world that she had no map to create. She made something new, and it's changed our future. So that's what they're going to do through their artistry. They consider themselves Afro-Surrealists. I do. And so we'll get to learn a little bit about that.
There's so many great things going on. We're running out of time, but Sunday, March 8th at 3 p.m., there's a panel discussion, What Color is Nude? And that's dealing with the racial future of fashion.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Just related to Johnson Publishing Company, they created Fashion Fair Cosmetics because their models didn't have makeup that was matching their skin tone. I still use Fashion Fair Cosmetics today. My mom did. You did?
My mother wore it, so you do kind of follow that whole, whatever your mom kind of wore, you do the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Fashion Fair cologne, loved it.
Everything. I mean, just looking at the diversity of this industry and what has changed and what still needs to change, because we have a lot of work still to do. So we're going to really dig into that topic and see how we can make a more diverse world for everyone.
I love it.
Yeah.
So quickly, I'll just mention a few of the other things that people can look for as well. Thursday, March 12th, there's a lecture, A Queer History of Fashion from the Closet to the Catwalk, and that's exploring the influence of the LGBT community on the world of fashion, and we know that that has been huge.
Oh, huge.
And we will actually get you to wrap up talking about some of the things that people can specifically look for, because when I tell you that you will be blown away by the fashions, and it really just brings back, if you've ever gone to a show, which I'll mention, 46 years out of the 50, Ebony Fashion Fair came to the city of Milwaukee.
Yes.
So there is that connection, and people will remember seeing all of this glamour when they walked that runway. So it's exciting. What one thing would you tell people that they don't want to miss?
They do not want to miss, oh gosh, you know, come to that Milwaukee room. Learn about your history here in Milwaukee with the Ebony Fashion Fair and the difference that it made in tons of people's lives and sponsoring organizations doing philanthropic work. And in that space, like you were saying, people remembering about coming to Fashion Fair or coming to the exhibit, we actually have a memory book where people can write down the experience that they had, because you come in and, I guess number one, notice the mannequins. They're all black.
And they're fabulous.
And they're
like
fantastic.
6'3".
Yeah, and some are a little bigger because they were plus size models on this runway.
And there's guys as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
That'll make you need to sit down, because you do not see that. No matter how many black people you think you see every day, you don't see an army of them in fantastic haute couture just standing in front of you. It's surreal.
It's surreal.
Yeah.
Great way to end this segment. And we did lose Eunice Johnson at the age of 93, and that was just a little bit after the Ebony Fashion Fair wrapped up. So she saw all of the hard work she had put in come to life, and people enjoy it for so many years, and that's a blessing in itself.
It is, it really is.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by. I know you've got to do some more tours, but I am so excited to take advantage of all the great things that they're offering here at the Milwaukee Art Museum. So thank you again.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Camille Morgan is the guest organizing curator for Inspiring Beauty, 50 Years of Ebony Fashion Fair, on exhibit here at the Milwaukee Art Museum now through May 3rd, and you can log on to MAM.org for all the details. When we return to Our Issues Milwaukee, we'll continue our conversation about the extraordinary exhibit Inspiring Beauty, 50 Years of Ebony Fashion Fair, with a representative from Mount Mary University, which is a presenting sponsor of this exhibit, and we'll do that when we come back.